So here it is, my third video about Minecraft. Except for this time, I'm not talking about how toxic the community is. No, today I'm talking about a specific aspect of the game. When I ask you what the most overpowered item in Minecraft is, what would you answer? Maybe you would say a fully enchanted diamond sword, an extremely powerful weapon. Maybe you would say it's the Elytra, which allows you to fly in survival mode. Or maybe you would even say the Totem of Undying, which grants you literal immortality. However, all of these answers are wrong. The true most overpowered Minecraft item is something you may not expect, and even more surprising, something which you can easily craft on your first day of playing. Alright, enough pretending that this is a mystery, you guys all saw the title, it's beds. Beds are the most overpowered item in Minecraft. And I'm not saying this because of some gimmicky reason like you can use them to kill the Ender Dragon. No, I believe that beds are truly broken on a gameplay level, and that they're an item you can use to circumvent the challenges of the game. Now, the ideas behind the beds are simple and self-explanatory. When it is night, you can use a bed to go to sleep and skip the night. Great. There's just one problem. By skipping the night, you also get to prevent all the hostile mobs from spawning. Now, you may be thinking, what's the problem? Skipping the mobs is the reason why I skip the night. And you may be right. But let's just take a look at the name of the game mode. Survival. What's the point of survival if you skip the part where you're supposed to survive? Yeah, there's still a danger of dying from fall damage or lava, but the majority of danger in survival comes from the hostile mobs. So by skipping hostile mobs using a bed, you're taking the survival aspect out of survival mode. Okay, so I'm not trying to shame people for using beds. I will admit, it's a lot easier to work on a build in survival mode if you can just skip the night and get back to working right away. However, my problem with beds is it seems as if Mojang is pushing beds as a necessity in Minecraft rather than an optional easy way out that you can take. First off, we have retrofitted villages. Now, adding beds into each village or home is a much needed quality of life change, as actually having some furniture inside village homes is a nice thing. However, with this change, it became much easier for the player to obtain a bed. Granted, it was already pretty easy, but by allowing beds to spawn into one of the most common and accessible structures in Minecraft, Mojang is indirectly giving players more access to beds. Next, we have the Nether update, which is coming in a couple of months. Now, in this new update, the Nether is getting retrofitted basically to become better. However, one of the changes in this update is that you can now sleep in beds in the Nether. Now, I have no idea why they made this change. Apparently they said they wanted to make the Nether more livable. However, I don't really see how this works, because the Nether doesn't really have a day-night cycle. So maybe they're allowing you to skip certain mobs in the Nether? Again, this is a bit shaky information here, but the common theme stays the same. They are making beds more accessible and they're trying to force players to use beds more often. Finally, we have the biggest piece of evidence for my argument, the Phantom. The Phantom is a flying hostile mob that spawns in swarms after 3 days of not sleeping. I personally think that the Phantom is a really nice addition to the game. It's a really cool looking mob, and they're actually a challenge to fight, especially if attacking in swarms. However, what I don't like about them is how they spawn. As I said before, phantoms spawn when the player hasn't slept for several days. This essentially makes it so that the game punishes the player for not using a bed. So Mojang themselves are telling us that we should use a bed and skip the night, because if we don't, we have to fight the phantom. I don't like this, because it makes using the bed the more obvious choice, despite being the safer option. You get to skip the night, and you don't allow phantoms to spawn. There's no reason not to sleep. The loot phantoms drop isn't really that useful until you have an Elytra, which is all the way in the endgame, so there's no reason to stay awake to fight them early on. Now let's say I convince you to believe that beds are a bit too overpowered in a game about survival. So how do we nerf them? The problem is, we really can't. The bed fulfills its purpose pretty much as expected. You fall asleep at night, you wake up in the morning. The bed doesn't really do anything else, and you can't remove this function of the bed, because that would be equivalent to just removing the bed, and I don't think Mojang is going to do that anytime soon. So instead of straight up nerfing beds, you have to balance them out by adding another feature. My opinion on how to fix this is to retrofit phantoms into a reason not to use beds. Here's my idea. Every time you go to bed in your Minecraft world, there's a small but random chance that you are transported to the Nightmare Dimension. This Nightmare Dimension would be pretty small, filled with Endermen and phantoms. The goal of the player in this dimension is to maneuver through or kill all the mobs and make your way back to a portal to lead you back to your bed in the overworld, where it is now morning. This dimension can have new blocks and even new mobs, but those aren't really the point of this dimension. Either way, this dimension is pretty difficult to take on, especially for players just starting off in a new world. The point of this dimension is to make players, especially newer ones, reconsider using a bed as often. They have to weigh the risks and rewards of sleeping in a bed. If you sleep in a bed, you have the potential to skip fighting mobs in the overworld, but there's also the risk of being transported to the nightmare dimension, which is a much harder fight. So do you go to bed or do you just stay up? Players have to make this choice. This is how I believe beds can be nerfed. Anyway, this was my short little rant about beds I had on my mind, and I just wanted to get it out. Do you think beds are overpowered, and should Mojang do something to counter them? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. Until next time, this is Ryvetcha. Peace.